I want to talk about my comic books. If you haven't clicked away yet, you're probably wondering why they're not in plastic bags. I didn't buy them to see what I could sell them for. I bought them to remember stuff and to read them, enjoy them, and remember the context in which they were. And all of these have a certain context, except this one. This one I keep because it's the worst comic book I've ever seen in my life. It's horrible. There's no plot. There's no character you can identify with. It's just a jumble of action and senseless dialogue and terribly, terribly amateurish art. But it's so horrible I keep it. This one is from a time when the X-Men were much different. But I remember my dad would take me on business trips and he would buy me a comic book to keep me entertained. And this was an X-Men style that I would buy one of these. And that was around the time I was still pretty small. And occasionally we'd stay at my grandmother's. She had comic books somewhat off the wall. And I later realized that there was a little store down the road a ways. It's almost like a bodega, but it was self-standing. And they had grade B comics only. But I'm sure she went in there and grabbed a few to entertain grandkids. And I was entertained. They had these goofy robots that could change their shapes. They had romance comic books and science fiction, Blackhawks. Those guys impressed me. I went and got more of their comic books. And this weird fellow here, how many of you remember your first taste of Coca-Cola? The bubbles fizzing and popping in your nose, the strange flavor coming through. If you remember that, you know what I'm talking about, remembering stuff. This is not a memory. This is just from that era. And these are really great stories, a full and complete storyline and an arc, characters you can identify with, fun art, well done, color schemes, everything about it. I bought a bunch of these. This one is different. Linda told me stories how when she was very young she had polio and was sickly, and her mother would read to her from this book. Not this exact one, but she told me enough about it that thanks to the internet, I searched archives. Based on her description of the plot, I figured out which book her mother was reading. And then I went online until I could find that book for sale, and I bought it, hoping that I could read it to her and help her. But I never got the chance because she was at the stage where she didn't care anymore. But this is all the original non-PC version before Disney, what do they call it, censored it, revised it. But this is the original from, I think it's from 1942. And that's a sample of what I keep in my comic books. But they're here to enjoy, and I don't care if I ever make a dime off of them. And that's my collection.